Mara Ellison had worked at St. Bridget's Medical Center for 18 years, and in all that time the front desk had become more familiar to her than her own living room. Every morning she arrived before sunrise, setting her handbag beneath the counter, straightening the appointment logs, and aligning the pens in their glass cup as though order on the desk could hold the rest of her life together. The hospital had its own rhythm, monitors beeping in distant rooms, wheelchairs rolling across polished floors, nurses exchanging hushed updates at shift change. Mara moved within that rhythm quietly, efficiently, almost invisibly. Patients knew her as the calm voice who said, "Good morning, I'll check that for you." Or, "Don't worry, the doctor will see you soon." But beneath her gentle tone lived a woman carved by years of endurance. That Tuesday afternoon had begun like any other until she looked up and saw a man standing at the desk, tall, broad-shouldered, hands tucked into his coat pockets like he owned the space. For a moment she didn't recognize him. Time had thinned his hair and hardened his face. Then he spoke. "Mara still here, huh?" Her breath caught. "Caleb," she said quietly. Caleb Rowan, her ex-husband, gave a crooked smile that didn't reach his eyes. 18 years, and you never left this place." Mara forced a polite nod. "Somebody has to keep things running." He leaned casually on the counter. "You always did like fixing things." She straightened a stack of charts to steady her hands. "Why are you here, Caleb?" His voice softened, but the distance in it remained. "I came to see about our son." The words settled heavily between them. Mara's fingers paused over the sign-in sheet. "Jonah isn't admitted," she said carefully. "He had a routine therapy review last week. He's home." Caleb exhaled through his nose, glancing around at the busy ward as if the hospital itself made him uncomfortable. "So, he's still the same?" Mara looked up slowly. "He's doing well." Caleb gave a short, humorless laugh. "Well, that's one word for it." She kept her voice even. "He's stronger than you think." Caleb's jaw tightened. "Mara, don't do that." "Do what?" "Pretend everything is normal." Mara folded her hands on the desk. "Normal is different for everyone." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. He was supposed to run, play ball, climb trees, not sit in machines and therapy rooms. The bitterness in his tone scraped old wounds open. Mara answered quietly, "He does more than you know." Caleb shook his head. "You always protected him from reality." She met his gaze. "No. I protected him from cruelty." The hallway noise filled the silence between them. A gurney rolling past, a nurse calling for lab results. Caleb swallowed, then muttered, "I heard he still can't walk." Mara's voice didn't waver. "He uses a wheelchair. And he uses it well." Caleb looked down at the counter. "I don't know how you live like this." She replied, soft but firm, "Because he's my son." Caleb ran a hand over his beard, restless. "You remember when the doctors first told us?" he asked. Mara did remember, every fluorescent light, every medical chart, every word that had shattered their old life. "Yes," she said. He scoffed. "You sat there asking questions like it was fixable." "Information helps me cope," she replied. "It overwhelmed me," he said. "All those terms, conditions, surgeries." Mara's expression softened slightly. "You stopped coming to the appointments." He looked away. "I couldn't watch him struggle." "He needed you," she said quietly. Caleb's voice rose in defense. "I was trying to survive too, Mara." She didn't flinch. "By leaving." He slammed his palm lightly on the desk, drawing a glance from a passing nurse. Lowering his voice, he said, "Everything changed. Our marriage, our plans, everything revolved around hospital visits." Mara answered, "That's what parenting is when a child needs extra care." Caleb's eyes hardened. "It felt like he broke our life." The word broke hung in the air. Mara inhaled slowly. Jonah didn't break anything. He revealed what was already fragile. Caleb stared at her, stunned by the calm truth in her tone. He laughed bitterly. "You always talk like that, calm, wise, untouchable." Mara shook her head. "I'm not untouchable. I just learned where to place my strength." Caleb leaned back, studying her uniform badge. You even became part of this place. It became part of me, she corrected. He gestured around. So, what are you now, nurse? Counselor? Front desk administrator, she said. But also a mother who understands every scared parent who walks in. Caleb's voice dropped. Did you ever resent me? Mara paused. The question was raw, unexpected. For leaving, she asked. He nodded. She answered honestly. I resented the silence more than the leaving. He frowned. What does that mean? You didn't fight. You just disappeared emotionally, then physically. Caleb swallowed. I thought you were stronger without me. Mara's lips curved sadly. Strength doesn't mean absence of pain. He looked as though he wanted to say more, but the words tangled in his throat. For the first time, regret flickered openly across his face. Before he could speak again, a warm voice cut in. Mara, everything all right here? Dr. Elena Vargas approached the desk, tablet in hand, her expression kind but observant. Mara nodded. I'm fine, doctor. Dr. Vargas smiled gently. Just checking, Mom. The nickname, born from years of watching Mara comfort frightened families, softened the tension. Caleb blinked. Mom, he repeated. Dr. Vargas extended a polite hand. You must be family. Caleb hesitated before shaking it. Ex-husband. The doctor said calmly, sensing the history without prying. She turned back to Mara. Jonah's latest scans came in. Excellent progress. Mara's eyes lit faintly. Thank you. Caleb looked between them, confused. Progress. Dr. Vargas nodded. He's gaining upper body strength faster than projected. Mara's pride was quiet but radiant. Caleb shifted uncomfortably. That's good. Dr. Vargas gave Mara a reassuring pat on the shoulder before walking off. Caleb watched her leave, then muttered, They all know you here. Mara picked up her pen, signing a chart. This place saw me through my hardest years. He lingered a moment longer before saying, almost defensively, Good for you. The words sounded hollow even to him. Mara didn't reply. She simply returned to her work as monitors beeped and wheels rolled, steady, composed, unbroken. Caleb did not leave immediately after his hollow remark. He lingered at the desk, shifting his weight from one foot to the other as if unsure how to exit Mara's world now that he had stepped back into it. Mara continued signing discharge charts, her pen moving steadily across each line, though her mind was far from the paperwork. After a long silence, Caleb cleared his throat. So, he really is getting stronger? Mara looked up, studying his face carefully, measuring whether the question came from concern or guilt. Yes, she said. He practices every day. Arms, shoulders, even balance exercises. Caleb nodded slowly. Does he ask about me? The question was quieter than anything he had said since arriving. Mara did not answer immediately. Sometimes, she admitted. Caleb's jaw tightened. What do you tell him? Mara's voice softened. That you live far away. That life became complicated. He let out a breath. You don't tell him I left because I couldn't handle it? He doesn't need adult burdens, she replied gently. Caleb stared at the counter. He must hate me. Mara shook her head. Jonah doesn't hate easily. He just misses what he never fully had. That truth struck harder than anger ever could. Caleb rubbed the back of his neck. I tried to visit once, he confessed. Mara's eyes flickered with surprise. When? 2 years after the divorce, he said. I drove to the apartment, sat outside for an hour. Why didn't you come up? She asked. He swallowed. I saw him through the window. He was doing therapy stretches on the floor, sweating, shaking but determined. Mara's chest tightened at the image. Caleb continued, voice rough. I realized he was braver than me. I didn't think I deserved to walk in. Mara's tone held both sadness and steel. Deserving isn't the point of fatherhood, Caleb. Showing up is. He nodded faintly. I know that now. She studied him. So, why come today? He hesitated before answering. Because I heard he won an adaptive sports medal. Pride warmed Mara's face instantly. Silver in wheelchair racing. Caleb almost smiled. That's my boy. Mara didn't correct him, but the words hovered. Your boy, yet raised without you. The corridor noise softened as visiting hours neared. Caleb glanced around the ward again. You really built a life here. Mara followed his gaze, nurses waving to her, orderlies greeting her by name. This place gave me purpose when everything else collapsed, she said. He nodded. I thought you'd remarry. She gave a small shrug. My focus was Jonah. Caleb's voice lowered. Did loving him ever feel like too much? Mara's eyes sharpened. Never. He lifted his hands quickly. I didn't mean, I know what you meant, she said, calmer now. And no, loving him is the easiest thing I've ever done. The world being unkind to him, that's the hard part. Caleb looked ashamed. I was part of that unkindness. Mara didn't soften the truth. Yes. He accepted it with a silent nod. A volunteer pushed a supply cart past them, the scent of antiseptic trailing behind. Caleb watched it go before speaking again. Does he remember when I taught him to draw? Mara's expression warmed faintly. Yes. He still sketches cars. Caleb blinked. Really? Modified racing cars, she added. Ones designed for wheelchair drivers. Caleb's eyes glistened unexpectedly. He redesigned the dream instead of abandoning it. Mara smiled softly. That's Jonah. He adapts. Caleb whispered, I wish I had stayed long enough to see that. Mara's voice carried quiet gravity. You still can. His story isn't finished. Caleb looked at her sharply. You'd let me back in? She answered honestly. Carefully. Gradually. But yes, if you come with consistency, not guilt. He absorbed that. Caleb stepped back from the desk, pacing a few feet before returning. I wouldn't even know how to start, he admitted. Mara offered practical calm. Start simple. A call. A visit. Don't promise miracles, just presence. He nodded slowly. Does he get his hopes up easily? He protects his heart better than you think, she said. But he still believes in people. Caleb exhaled shakily. I don't deserve that faith. Mara replied, then earn it. He studied her face, not with old marital familiarity, but with new respect. You became stronger than anyone I know. She shook her head. Strength came from necessity, not choice. He murmured, still, I admire it. Silence settled again, but this time it was gentler. Caleb glanced toward the pediatric therapy wing. Is he here today? Mara nodded. Session ends in 20 minutes. He froze. He's here? Yes. Panic flickered across his features. I can't just walk in after all these years. Mara leaned forward slightly. Then don't walk in as the past. Walk in as the present. He hesitated. What if he rejects me? Mara's answer was steady. Then you accept his feelings and keep showing up anyway. Caleb closed his eyes briefly, gathering courage he had lacked for years. A young nurse approached the desk. Mara, Jonah's finishing early today. He asked if you could come see his new racing gloves. Mara smiled warmly. I'll be there in a moment. The nurse noticed Caleb and gave a polite nod before leaving. Caleb's voice came out almost as a whisper. He's proud of gloves? Mara chuckled softly. They help him grip the wheels faster. Caleb shook his head in amazement. All the things I never learned about my own son. Mara picked up her desk keys. You can learn now. He looked at her, searching for judgment, but found only invitation. They stepped from behind the desk together, walking down the long corridor. Caleb's footsteps slowed as children's laughter echoed from the therapy gym. I'm not ready, he muttered. Mara stopped beside him. You'll never feel ready. Love requires stepping forward anyway. He looked through the glass window. Inside, Jonah sat in his wheelchair, laughing with a therapist as he tested sleek racing gloves. Strong arms. Determined posture. A live joy. Caleb's breath caught. He looks happy. Mara's voice held pride. He is. Caleb's eyes filled. I expected to see brokenness. Mara answered gently. You're seeing resilience. Jonah glanced toward the window and froze. Recognition flickered slowly across his face. Dad, he mouthed. Caleb's composure shattered instantly. He pushed the door open hesitantly. "Hey, champ." Jonah wheeled closer, studying him carefully, not with anger but cautious curiosity. "You came." Caleb nodded, voice thick. "I should have come sooner." Jonah shrugged lightly. "You're here now." The simple grace in the boy's response undid him. Caleb knelt despite the awkward angle, resting a hand on the wheelchair frame. "Those gloves look fast." Jonah grinned. "Wanna see?" "I'd love to," Caleb said. Mara watched from the doorway, tears she didn't wipe away slipping quietly down her cheeks. An hour later, Mara was back at her desk, the hospital returning to its steady rhythm. But something inside her had shifted, not dramatically, not magically, but gently, like a long-closed window finally cracked open. She signed charts, answered calls, directed visitors, the same motions she had repeated for nearly 2 decades. Yet now, down the corridor, she knew Jonah was laughing with his father, showing him sketches, racing techniques, stories Caleb had missed but could still learn. Dr. Vargas passed by again, pausing with a knowing smile. "Everything okay, Mom?" Mara looked toward the therapy wing before replying, her voice calm but lighter than it had been in years. "Yes," she said. "Everything's getting there." She returned to her paperwork as monitors beeped and wheelchairs rolled past, resilience still her anchor, routine still her armor, but hope, long dormant, quietly alive again. The following afternoon, Mara arrived at her desk earlier than usual, though she barely slept the night before. Her mind had replayed the therapy room scene over and over. Jonah's surprised smile, Caleb's trembling voice, the cautious but genuine warmth between them. She set down her handbag, straightened the appointment files, and aligned the pens again, but today her hands felt lighter. At exactly 10:12 a.m., her desk phone rang. "Front desk, this is Mara speaking." A familiar voice answered, hesitant but hopeful. "Hi, it's Caleb." She leaned back slightly in her chair. "Is everything all right?" "Yeah," he said quickly. I took Jonah to breakfast this morning. There's a cafe across from his school." Mara blinked in surprise. "You did?" "Yeah." He ordered waffles. Talked the entire time. She could hear the smile in his voice. He does that when he's excited. Caleb chuckled softly. "He showed me his racing schedule. Mara, he's incredible." Pride warmed her chest. "I've been telling you." He paused before adding, more serious now, "Thank you for not closing the door on me." Mara's reply was gentle but grounded. The door was always open for Jonah's sake. You just had to choose to walk through it. Later that week, Caleb began showing up regularly, sometimes at therapy sessions, sometimes at the school's adaptive sports track, sometimes simply to sit with Jonah while he sketched. Mara noticed the difference not just in Jonah's mood, but in his posture, his laughter, the way he spoke about Dad, now with growing ease instead of distant curiosity. One evening, Caleb met Mara in the hospital cafeteria. He held 2 cups of coffee, placing one in front of her. "Peace offering," he said. She raised a brow. "For which offense?" "There are several." He laughed quietly. "For all of them." They sat in a companionable silence before he spoke again. "I've been reading about his condition. The therapies, the adaptive tech, everything." Mara nodded approvingly. "Knowledge replaces fear." "I wish I'd learned that sooner," he admitted. She didn't argue. The truth was self-evident. Weeks turned into months. Caleb attended Jonah's regional wheelchair racing event, standing beside Mara in the cheering crowd. When Jonah crossed the finish line, first place this time, Caleb shouted louder than anyone. He lifted Jonah from the chair in a fierce hug that left them both laughing breathlessly. Mara watched from a few feet away, hands clasped to her chest, overwhelmed by a healing she once believed impossible. Later, as medals glinted under stadium lights, Caleb approached her. "You did this," he said. She shook her head. "Jonah did." "No," Caleb insisted softly. "You built the foundation that let him rise." Mara accepted the acknowledgement without pride, only quiet gratitude. One evening after another hospital shift, Mara found Caleb waiting by her car. For a moment she wondered if old emotional complications were about to resurface, but his expression was respectful, grounded. "I want to tell you in person," he said. "I've applied for a job back in the city. Closer to Jonah." Mara searched his face. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "I spent years running from responsibility. I'm done running." She felt a cautious warmth bloom inside her. "He'll be happy," Caleb added gently. "And I hope we can rebuild a friendship too. No pressure. Just mutual respect." Mara considered before answering. "Respect we already have. Friendship can grow from there." Spring arrived softly that year. From her hospital desk, Mara watched sunlight spill through the glass entrance as patients came and went. The monitors still beeped, wheelchairs still rolled, charts still needed signing. The rhythm of the hospital unchanged. But her life outside that desk had transformed. Caleb now attended nearly every race, every therapy milestone, every school presentation. Jonah thrived, stronger in body, brighter in spirit, steadied by the presence of both parents at last. One afternoon, Jonah rolled up to the front desk in his racing chair, Caleb walking beside him. "Mom, guess what?" Jonah beamed. "Dad's training with me. Upper body workouts." Mara laughed, glancing at Caleb's mock-exhausted expression. "You'll need ice packs," she teased. Caleb grinned. "Worth it." As they wheeled and walked away together down the corridor, Mara returned to her paperwork, but her reflection in the desk glass showed something new. Not just resilience, not just endurance, but peace. The life she once held together alone had expanded, healed in unexpected ways. And as the hospital hummed around her, Mara Ellison allowed herself a small, content smile, the quiet strength that carried her through the hardest years now finally sharing space with joy.